Hello and welcome to the third episode of Rebrand Everything. Today we're going to be rebranding a tech giant. So today's brief is: Samsung want to explore a new logo that can be used across the 4 divisions of their current website. Divisions are mobile, TV and AV, appliances and IT. They would like to include a graphic device which can be color-coded for each division. As soon as I think of Samsung, I immediately think of what is actually their old logo with the ellipse around it and the white text through it. It's like a blue circle, but that's actually not what they use, and they haven't used that since 2015. Now they just use all caps text, which is the text from inside that ellipse just on its own. Because that was my immediate thought, maybe we can use that ellipse in this new logo. That's one of my ideas. Might be able to use it as part of something else. It's time to get some of them ideas down, so let's start sketching. So we jumped straight into sketching on the iPad and started off just by writing every single idea that came into my head. Just no prejudging, just get straight in there. Started thinking about their old logo, which was the ellipse. Started looking at how we could create other shapes out of the ellipses that made a nice positive symbol, like a plus or a flower or like steps going upwards. And always thinking about the fact that we got 4 divisions to work with. So we want to try and end up with 4 color-coded sections, I guess, because part of the brief is having a colourful icon or a coloured icon for each section. Started then just thinking again about some more shapes we could make out of the ellipses. So we got the forward arrow shape, and then a little idea where the motion lines would be the different colours of the divisions. 4 simple ellipses could work if they were colour-coded, and then thought, oh, if we rotate a couple of them, it would look like a hashtag. Then I immediately thought, oh, it looks like the Slack logo. But then because the shape's different, it might work, so we'll see. And I started having a little look at the actual logo position compared to the text, but I think I prefer doing that in Adobe Illustrator. But it's good to have a little look at the sketching stage. So jumping into Illustrator, first task was just to remove the Samsung logo from the old ellipse and just clean up the paths, so it makes a normal ellipse. And then started looking at the 4 colours for the divisions. Used a website called coolers.co, pretty good for getting a nice little palette of colours. You'll see which ones I settled on. Wanted something quite lively, as this is all consumer facing, something quite strong but bright, and just a little bit more exciting than the current grey text that they're using. So once we got the colour palette sorted, we were looking at finding a font that's similar to the one on their website. I think they use a bespoke font that I can't get hold of, but closest font was Avant-Garde Gothic Bold. So I just wrote out the 4 divisions in that font and colour coded them, and then started looking at how we might be able to make the overarching logo. My thinking was, if we could get the overarching logo to look good, then we will be able to make the sub-brand logos quite easily from that, based on the rules that we've set on the overall logo. Again, looking at cutting out the ellipse from a shape rather than just having the ellipse, because people might think it's going back to the old days. It's just trying to think up a way of using that ellipse in a modern way. So that little box idea I think turned out alright. I quite like it. I think it's got room for development. I wanted to add a little bit of motion, a little bit of excitement, so I just duplicated up the ellipse, changed the colours and just staggered them at about 10 or 20 degrees, I think, to make that little flower looking icon. And then I set all of the ellipses to multiply, so that it gets that effect where it's like overprinted. That looks quite like a flower, or maybe the little thing out of Crash Bandicoot and flowers on its head, the little wooden man. And started looking at different positions of that next to the text. So one way it looks like an arrow going forward, another way it looks like a flower on top. But yes, quite like that. Looks quite good. Started looking at adding a stroke to the ellipse and getting rid of the fill, and then rotated it round, so we got 4 sections, and then the 5th section is the bit in the middle of the 2 ellipses. My thought process then was just, we might be able to use the Samsung main colour in the middle and the 4 divisions around it for the overall logo. Had a look at the kerning of the logo, the Samsung logo as well. I noticed there was quite a big gap between each of the letters, so it might be quite nice to update that with a tighter, more modern looking variation of it. Again, just playing around with using the stroked ellipse to try and make a good looking icon. I started looking at this top-down flower icon we created from the ellipse. Started looking at how that would work with the other sub-brands. And I think them colours are quite good. I think they look quite strong. And again, just looking at cutting the stroke version out. I started playing around with the letter A because I noticed it was kind of like an arrow. They've edited the text before to remove the crossbar on the A. So I started playing with combining the ellipse and the A. Revisiting the block icon, started making up the sub-brands of that. And I think that actually looks quite strong and it looks quite established already. I think it's just enough of the sub-colour that it's not overpowering, it's still predominantly Samsung, but with a touch of something else, a touch of the division colour. At this point I'm just starting to line them up to see how they look next to each other, because sometimes you can be looking at a logo and think, it's looking really good, and then you put it up next to another option and it just suddenly doesn't look as good because the other one's so much stronger. This is a good way of just comparing them to make sure you're making the best you can. When I enlarged that Samsung logo again, I realised that I hadn't paid that much attention to the kerning, so I just gave it a little bit more attention and then copied that through to the rest of the logos, just to get them gaps between the letters looking nice. At this point I'm just trying the icons I was playing with originally with our new word mark, which is all tightened up. On this version I wanted to use the flower, but it felt like it needed to have something that had a bit more of the sub-brand colour on. So I added the line in, which came from the icon and goes down all the way to the end of the Samsung logo. I thought that was a good way of adding like a strong bar of the colour without being too over the top. So I started looking at the hashtag idea that I'd drawn out on my sketches earlier, but didn't really like how it came out. The ellipses were a little bit too fat to make it look nice. It just looked kind of bulbous and horrible. Then I started looking at cutting out the ellipse shape from a circle to see if that would work, but again it just looked a bit ugly. I started playing around with using the ellipse like they used the old logo with the white text inside it, which worked for mobile and that looks alright, but as soon as you try the word appliances it was too long and there was no way of fixing it. The ellipse would have to be so big, it just killed it. So I gave up on that idea. Started developing up the sub-brands for the forward arrow flower icon to see how they could look, because I thought it's facing the right way, it's just a bit of excitement. I thought another way to make a nice little icon would be to grab the ellipse, rotate it a couple of times and duplicate it so it's made this like top-down flower. And then I again duplicated that, rotated it 45 degrees and then shrunk the little petals down. And then I thought about making them a different colour. I think it turned out all right. I don't know whether it's a little bit weak compared to some of the other icons we've made. When I duplicated up the little flower icon, I noticed that it kind of looked like maybe like a dragonfly's wings or a butterfly's wings, so I tried a little body in there, just working up a few more ways to show the sub-brands on the top-down flower version. Capital letters, a bit of thinner font for balance, I think it might work. Halfway through this project I'm just going back to my little sketch pad that I've got at the top left. I just like to bring that in so I can just keep going back and referencing the ideas that I had earlier. So at this point I'm just really comparing them and seeing if there's any more room for improvement, but we're getting close to the choosing point. Just having another little go at making like a butterfly or dragonfly icon. Try and give the idea a bit more of a chance. I came up with this idea, and out of the 4 colours I was using, one of them was so strong it was just overpowering the others, so I changed that to a light pink. And I think that's a nice little identity, kind of looks like an X. Again, just looking at how that the brand on its own would work, so put the website URL beneath it. I think that looks alright, nicely balanced. And again, all of these are using our new tighter logo with less gaps between each of the letters, so I think they're looking a bit more modern, quite powerful, like it's made quite a nice block. just started playing around with this version, like slicing it up into pieces and then playing around with the colours, because I thought this could be nice to show the 4 divisions for the overall logo, and then maybe have just the division colour with a dash of the Samsung blue, just to strengthen the brand a bit. And I think that came out quite nicely. And then just tried it with the 4 little corners of the circle, in blue as well, to see if that looked nicer. This version is my favourite. I think it's got the most potential. When the logo's down small, it's still a good solid block of colour, and I think it's got good potential for use on like dark backgrounds as well. The overlapping colours kind of show that although these are individual sub-brands, it's all part of one main hub. And I like what we've done with the Samsung logo, where we've brought the gaps between each letter down to make it more of one big solid block. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will show you a few real-world applications of the new logo.